Hey, what is up guys? This is Nishi from MST.TV here, back with another Market Watch episode. Today we're taking a look at a few buyouts happening all across the market. Now some of these changes are from the aftermath of YCS Anaheim, which was of course the first big event with crossover breakers being legal. On top of that though, we have some influences from over in the OCG. Their format is a little bit more developed than ours, and they're starting to see some interesting cards being teched into decks over there. But of course, we also have some crazy new Dragon Ruler cards that were just revealed to be coming in Alliance Insight, which is the set right after Supreme Darkness, and they definitely have some players hyped. That said, we're going to cover a ton of different changes that are going to feel like a little bit of everything. Let's get started. Kicking things off, we're taking a look at a couple of cards that are trending because of the new Dragon Ruler support that was just revealed, starting with Blaze, Supreme Ruler of all Dragons. Now, we're not going to go over what the new cards do here. I think Tom wants to do that in an upcoming video, but we will say that the new cards look really cool, and hopefully they'll be enough to make it so that the deck can actually do something in 2024. Blaze is a card that I guess technically isn't a Dragon Ruler, but it does fit the bill with how it looks, its rank, and its effect. It's a generic rank 7 monster. It lets you detach a material from it to destroy one card from your hand or field, and then one card your opponent controls. And the Dragon Ruler-esque effect is that you can banish 2 fire and or dragons from your hand and or graveyard, then special summon this card from the graveyard. This one does have the stats of Blaster as well, so I think some players are speculating that we could get a Dragon Ruler Xyz monster for each title, Redox, and Tempest, especially since the new ones are light and dark rather than those other attributes. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Anyways, Blaze is a pretty easy card to have forgotten about. It was only ever printed in Battles of Legend Terminal Revenge, and it was way after Dragon Rulers were ever good or relevant. Even in rank 7 decks, they're never really making this card, even though its pop effect is generic. However, it seems that the card will have a home in the new Dragon Ruler deck, which has caused a ton of players to snap these up. The secrets have been fluctuating between the $3 to $7 mark ever since its release, but those have now shot up to between the $10 and $12 price point. The QCRs did see a bigger price spike dollar-wise. This card is historically around $40, but it's shot up to between $80 and $100 right now, with the cheapest ones on TCG Player being right around there at the time I'm making this, though there is only one sold listing at $75, and most of the sold listings are actually below $50. Keep an eye out for these over the next few days. It's definitely going to depend on what players can figure out with the new Dragon Ruler support and just how worthwhile it's going to be. The next card here we're showing is going to be kind of a placeholder. It's Tempest, Dragon Ruler of Storms, so everything kind of makes sense now, right? We can see why Konami decided to reprint all of the Dragon Rulers in Rarity Collection 3, and between the babies being in the nostalgia pool and the big rulers being in the set itself, you can get the entire set of Dragon Rulers in QCR, and they look really amazing. Now naturally, with the Dragon Ruler support announced, a bunch of the Dragon Rulers saw spikes in price. With all of the rarities of the rulers now being available, it was of course the QCR versions that shot up like crazy. This is basically something we saw all across the board with all 8 rulers. The babies actually went even higher than the adults did, since they're part of the 200 card nostalgia pool, so getting just one of those in QCR is actually incredibly difficult. Even the platinum secret rares are really hard to get. So like, I was looking at Stream, which is the baby water Dragon Ruler, and the platinum version is literally $10 to $15 as well. We are a bit luckier with the full-grown Dragon Rulers, since they all have those lower rarity printings as well, so the cards themselves are just easier to access in those nicer rarities, so it's just the QCRs that have jumped. I believe that one of the Xyz monsters lets you copy one of the Dragon Ruler discard effects, so Tempest would let you search any dragon, Title is a Foolish Burial, Blaster destroys the card, and then Redox is a Monster Reborn. Literally all of those effects are really good. So yeah, the big Dragon Rulers we saw were pretty cheap before. Like Tempest was literally a $5 QCR, but we now see it up to $25, and this is something that we're seeing across the board with all the rulers, right? So if you did open a bunch of quarter century bonanza, the Dragon Rulers are definitely cards that you will want to make sure you set aside and monitor the prices of over the next several months. You definitely could offload them right now and take advantage of the hype, but also given how strong the deck was before, I'm sure that the cards will be seeing a ton of hype over the next several months, and you will be able to move them for a decent amount. I do want to take a second to remind all of you to check out our website, MSTmerch.com. Now, over at MSTmerch.com, we have everything that you will need to optimize your Yu-Gi-Oh! Tournament experience. We have the basics with white, black, pink, and our new purple matted sleeves, which are my personal favorites, as well as smooth and matted sleeves to double sleeve your valuable cards and sleeves with for tournament play. But we also have some other items that you can really use to customize your collection. We have amazing foil sleeves, including some with the MST.TV logo, and dividers and subdividers so that you can keep your collection perfectly organized and easily accessible. Regardless of if you're a competitive or casual player, I'm certain that you'll find something that you will enjoy over at MSTmerch.com. Alright, we're moving on to talking about a few cards that are currently trending following YCS Anaheim, starting with Mulcharmy Fuwalos. So I think we all know what the Mulcharmies are by now. They're kind of like more limited versions of Max C, where you can't activate them if you have any cards on your side of the field, and Fuwalos is the one where you only draw if your opponent summons from the deck or extra deck. Now, going into Crossover Breakers format, I think a lot of people were thinking that maybe Fuwalos isn't going to be as great as people initially thought. A bunch of people have said that Perulia is better going into the Ryziel matchup, and with Ryziel going to be supposedly the best deck in the format, I guess that is a valid concern. However, the results from YCS Anaheim really established that Fuwalos should be in the main deck, and it's your hand trap of choice. It was literally everywhere in the top cut, and I think that seeing it sort of solidified the idea in everyone's mind that this is possibly the best card in the game right now. That being said, Fuwalos was already an expensive card, coming in at $110 to $120 each. However, the card has jumped even higher than that now, with the cheapest ones on TCG Player coming in at $150. Now, I know that this is a lot, so if you guys are just playing at your locals, you don't want to spend like $450 on 3 cards, I totally get it. But I think that generally, right, if you're expecting to top a YCS or compete at that highest level, you'd better have access to this card. The other thing is that Fuwalos theoretically shouldn't be reprinted until the 2025 tins. Seeing how in demand it is, I think it's possible we could see it reprinted early. It would definitely be crazy to see it as an OTS tournament pack ulti, or get a reprint in the Quarter Century Stampede set. Realistically, we'll see Perulia in one of those before we see Fuwalos, so this card is going to stay expensive for quite a while. Okay, now here's a card I wasn't expecting to talk about. It's Sky Striker Mecha Hornet Drones. Hornet Drones is a card that looks innocent enough. It literally just summons a Sky Striker token, that's it. This card was actually one of the first Sky Striker cards hit on the ban list because it helped make Sky Strikers so consistent with their link monsters, and it ended up being used by decks like Trickstar to get monsters on the field to use as link material. Well, it turns out that Hornet Drones is being used again in the current format. I first saw Triff using this in a video online, even though he did end up playing Ryziel at Anaheim, and I believe that Jibriel was actually playing this build as well, and went 11-0 during the Swiss rounds at Anaheim as well. The engine just consists of 3 Engage, 1 Hornet Drones, and 1 Widow Anchor, and then 1 Kagari in the extra deck. The idea is that you simply play a bunch of spells, and Engage gets you either this or Anchor plus another draw. Then with Hornet Drones, you summon a token, make Kagari, add back drones, get you another token, and those 2 bodies plus your Malice monster gets you into either Red Ransom or White Binder. Now generally in Malice you have to go through Lizardos or Splash Mage to climb into the Link 3, but this helps to get around that. Anyways, this card has been limited for quite some time and also hasn't seen a reprint since 2019. Because of that, it's actually quite a difficult card to find. The original super rares from Dark Saviors are actually up to $5 each, and even the commons from the 2019 tins are a couple of dollars a piece as well. This is definitely a card you guys should be digging up out of your bulk and looking to offload, because players will be looking for it at your locals as the Sky Striker Malice build generally gets more and more popular because of the cards that are in it. So at the back end of the video here, we're going to take a look at a few cards that are currently trending in OCG decks that could translate to the TCG, starting with Nightmare Griffin. So Griffin is a generic Link 4 monster with 2 different effects. 1, it can set any spell or trap from your graveyard to your side of the field, and 2, it stops monsters on the field from activating their effects unless they are linked. So early on, I think some players were talking about Griffin in Malice, but after seeing some of the results from YCS Anaheim, not a lot of players were really on it. It seems cool, but it's not a Cyberse monster, so you can't have used Splash Mage in your combo when you get into it, and I think sometimes Terahertz is just generally a better card. Now, however, it seems that in the OCG, some players are turning to using Griffin instead. According to roadoftheking.com, it plays better into hand traps, even though it isn't as powerful as Terahertz, and it's starting to get some attention there. Though, of course, they do have Appaloosa, so it is a very different game over there as well. Now price-wise, it's just the secret rare version of Nightmare Griffin that is currently expensive, as the highest rarity printing currently available. They used to be down at around $10 to $12 each. They are now currently between $15 and $20 a piece. Aside from that though, the card does have really cheap printings. There's an Ultra from the tins and then the rares from Genesis Impact, so the card is very easily accessible. I think that this card will get a reprint in Quarter Century Stampede, so personally I would just play the lower rarity printings while you can and offload the secret rares for maximum value. This one seems like a fun card. It's Evil Swarm Ouroboros. Ouroboros is a generic rank 4 Xyz monster that requires 3 level 4 monsters to make, and it's currently being used by some Ryziel variants over in the OCG. The idea is you make use of Ouroboros' hand rip effect, where you detach a material from it to send a random card from your opponent's hand to the graveyard. In the OCG, there's a new Xyz monster that we'll be getting in Supreme Darkness called Twins of the Eclipse, and it has an effect that lets you revive Xyz monsters. Basically, it allows you to use the hand rip effect of Ouroboros twice, since its effect is a soft once per turn. Of course, I don't know exactly how good the card will be here in the TCG, because Twins of the Eclipse doesn't come out for a couple of months, but it's something that is seeing play in the OCG, so at the very least, we should be aware of it and what it could potentially do. Now, Ouroboros has a couple of different printings. Fortunately, it was in Crossover Breakers itself as a rare and a super, so if you did open that set, you should have access to at least a copy. However, its original printings are getting pretty pricey. If you want the original DT printing, they used to be only around $10, but they are now up to $30 a piece. The other high rarity printing is the secret rare from Hidden Arsenal 7. They used to only be $4 to $5. They are now up to around the $10 to $15 range. It's still very early into Ryziel format here in the TCG, especially for this card, since I don't think it'll see play until Twins of the Eclipse is legal at the very least. For now, I would definitely look to offload the high rarity printings of this card if you do have them, and pick up one of the cheaper copies from Crossover Breakers if you're just looking for one to play. And finally, the last card we have to talk about for today is Ixis Encore. So at the moment here in the TCG, Ultimate Slayer is the side deck card of choice when dealing with Ryziel Detonator. You get to send Aggregator to the graveyard, who provides another effect negation for something like Cross, so you can deal with multiple threats on the board at the same time. In the OCG, however, as we just mentioned, Ryziel has access to Twins of the Eclipse, who can revive an Ixis monster when sent to the graveyard. Because of this, Ixis Encore is becoming a popular side deck tech over there. Ixis Encore can't be responded to at all, whereas Ultimate Slayer just can't be responded to with monster effects, so your opponent can't use Judgment to stop Ixis Encore. The other thing is that you can use Ixis Encore to summon back the Twins of the Eclipse that was underneath a Detonator, and so you can get rid of Detonator without allowing them to make it again or go into any other Ixis monster, because Twins will be summoned back and will never have had a chance to activate in the graveyard. It's a cool tech, but it's something that, just like with Ouroboros, we aren't sure yet if it will see play here in the TCG because it's a little bit too early. Fortunately, Ixis Encore got a reprint in Rarity Collection 2, so the card is very easily accessible. It did take forever for that reprint to come, since its last reprint before that was back in like 2014, but now you can finally get some pretty nice copies of Ixis Encore for less than $1. It's the QCRs that we want to pay attention to mostly. They were only a few dollars when the set dropped, but they're trending upwards and we now have them at around $12 to $13 each, so they are no longer just cheap QCRs that you can get rid of. This is a card that you will definitely want to make sure that you own a playset of in whatever rarity you prefer going into next format. Alright guys, that is all we have for today's Market Watch episode. We're definitely expecting things to slow down at least a little bit because we are going into that holiday season. I know we still will have some reveals from over in the OCG and other information like that, but in terms of new products, we don't have too much that's hitting the market here in the TCG very soon, so we're just going to have to be patient and wait for the new year. Anyways guys, if you did enjoy today's episode, please make sure you let me know by hitting that thumbs up button. Make sure you leave a comment in the comment section down below. Hit subscribe if you haven't already, and until next time guys, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV.